Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty With It with your host, Wolok, my partner in crime as always, Vasili Gianarakos. Vasili, what's going on, brother?
Doing good. It's almost like Christmas if you're a hockey fan in terms of trade deadline
Sure.
being right around the corner on Friday. It's going to be interesting from a Flyers perspective just to see kind of what actually occurs here because after winning three in a row, they are still in the thick of things technically in this playoff race, right? 67 points.
Yep.
The Bruins do have 73, so they're still about 6 points out. But they are technically still in the mix. So we'll see what happens and what they decide to do. There's some, I would say key guys that's pretty evident they might try to move. And I
Mm-hmm.
still think they're going to continue with that. So just excited to see kind of what unfolds here because I think a lot of what we will see at the trade deadline might shape how the offseason could take place. But yeah, how you doing, Yariv?
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, there's a lot going on. If you guys see me looking over like the entire show, it's because I have Twitter open or X and making sure not to miss anything because we might have some breaking news during the show. Try to be as up to date. We're recording right now 5:15 p.m. on Wednesday, the 4th. So we have 45 hours, something like that, till the trade deadline. So things are going to be ramping up. We're probably going to miss some trades, obviously, that happen after this. We'll speculate on what the Flyers will do. We'll talk about some seller options. We're going to review the current trades that went out. So we'll try to be as up to date as possible, but obviously Friday is that main day, and we're definitely going to talk about the Ristolainen situation that seems to be um, running amok on X. Let's just say that it's like every other tweet I see is like trade Ristolainen. So I do want to talk about that. But other than that, we have some good stuff to talk about with the Flyers to start off. So before we do, let me remind everybody, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notification, get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes and give us a rating and a follow if you can. Again, that is the best way to support Vasili and I, and one of the best ways to support FlyersNittyGritty.com. Again, we really appreciate it when you do that. It helps us grow. If you're watching right now, you have not done that so far, kindly would ask you to, at the very least, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be amazing. And also, shout out to our sponsors, Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Make sure to check out Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Also, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. They will help facilitate the process between you and your insurance company and make sure you get the best claim possible. Again, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. And also want to give a brief shout out to our partner, sportspider.com. Guys, if you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, sportspider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay as up to date on our Philadelphia Flyers or the NHL in general, make sure to check out sportspider.com. The link is in the description of both the audio and video version of this podcast. And also, again, just a reminder, always go to flyersnittygritty.com. Okay, so current Flyers status. Come out of the break, the All-Star break, well, similar, the Olympic break, and the Philadelphia Flyers continue taking us emotionally on a wild ride after an absolutely dreadful month of January where they were arguably the worst team in the NHL after pretty consistently being in a playoff spot. And at the time, going into January with the sixth best winning percentage in the NHL, they dropped very far in the standings. Now, as we return, the Flyers lost the first game, but have won 3 games since. They lost to the Caps, but they beat the Rangers, the Bruins, and the Maple Leafs recently. All tight games, as they've been doing all year long. But they keep their hopes alive to chase the wild card spot. Again, not enough to kind of probably negate any trade rumors or the Flyers investing in this team to make the playoffs. but it does keep the season more entertaining as far from whether games mean something or not. They only have a 20 plus games left in the season, so not a lot of times to make the playoffs. And I think the next 48 hours will kind of tell us where Danny Briere and Jonesy kind of believe this team is.
Yeah.
And again, predicate this with what Vasili and I have been talking about for a long time so far. We always believe that this upcoming offseason was the opening of the window. So everybody who's been freaking out for the past several months, talking about adding guys, all this stuff, neither one of us ever thought any of that was going to happen. And I think, again, set your expectations accordingly to what, where the team truly is. They're not in fire sale mode and they are not in buyer mode. So it's an uncomfortable spot from a fan standpoint, but it's also an important one to be patient from a leadership standpoint. I'm talking about the general manager standpoint. So we do have some good performances throughout that. Dan Vladar has looked excellent in that time. Ersson had a good game within there. Matvey Michkov had a 2-goal game with a beautiful OT winner. Jamie Drysdale had a big night. Noah Cates had a big night. So we have some good performances kind of throughout this. Denver Barkey's homecoming, he walks away with an assist and a win after spending God knows how much on tickets for family and friends. I try to do the math. I don't even want to think about it. You can
A
tell me how
lot,
expensive
that's for
tickets are
sure.
in Toronto.
About $300 in the nosebleeds,
Yeah,
so
300.
a
So
lot.
300 times 50. Jesus Christ. There's
A
no
lot
way
of
he
money.
spent that amount of money.
Hey, the
He might have.
the
He might have.
organizations might help out with that. Who
Yeah.
knows? In terms of
But
free
yeah,
tickets.
your thoughts.
I think from their return, the main thing for me, like after the break, is just defensive play, right? Like these last three wins, you're only letting, 2 goals in against the Rangers, a goal against Boston, 2 goals against the Leafs. So you're kind of getting back to that formula where you were having success earlier this season, where you're kind of limiting your opposition in terms of scoring chances, limiting them in terms of backdoor chances. I think that's what was really killing them
Hmm.
before the break. A lot of breakdowns defensively in their own end, leading to backdoor goals where the goalies are kind of having to either overcommit to one side and then leave another side open because they're not sure if the D man's going to have the coverage. So it kind of seems like that's been corrected. And I think probably some of the practice time with the team the week before returning probably definitely helped. Because they were able to tighten some of those areas up. What I obviously like to see for sure is Michkov kind of showing more of his offensive prowess after the
Yep.
break. I would say the Cates line in general has probably been their best offensive line.
Most consistently, yeah,
Yeah,
from
like
game to game.
for these last 4 games, every game they've created scoring opportunities. Um, Even in the against the Capitals, right? That they were the only line that was able to create a goal offensively for them in that game as well with Noah Cates' goal. So I think for me, that's been a real standout. Like they've come back and they've looked really good. And I think Michkov's looked quicker in terms of fleetness of foot. Like he gets that overtime winner against the Rangers. So you love to see it. Jamie Drysdale as well, right? Like he has a big goal against the Bruins in terms of getting the Flyers that 2-goal lead. And then they're able to close it out because of that. And if they don't get that goal from Drysdale, it probably ends up being in like another overtime game. And if you are thinking that you're going to make a run here and get back into the playoffs, that win against the Bruins in regulation will be crucial. Um, Another thing as well, right, is we're just seeing Dan Vladar pick up where he left off. Like he hasn't faltered. He continues to look like a starting goaltender for the Flyers, and give them chances to win, right? Like I would say a big theme for this season, and no matter what happens going forward, in terms of playoff implications, I would just say if you look at the overall goaltending situation last season with Ersson and Fedotov, we were not really sure if the team would be able to solidify things goaltending wise. With Vladar now in the mix here and the way he's played, like the Flyers look solidified in net for the foreseeable future with Vladar. Like he seems like a legitimate number one goalie at
Yeah.
this point in the league, right? So that's a main piece. And I think him coming back and showing that kind of same play and talent, like that answers a lot of questions because who knows if he was going to be able to keep it up, right?
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that because I totally agree with what you're saying there. I have a tendency to watch Toronto just because Canadian coverage of hockey is so strong. I have a tendency to watch like Canadian coverage on YouTube.
Yeah.
about like the Canadian teams, specifically the Toronto Maple Leafs. And what's his name? Sid Sixero? Is that
Oh yeah, he
you know who
is.
he is? Yeah, he's like one of
Yeah,
the biggest, right?
he does. He used to do Tim and Sid on
Right.
Sportsnet, and
Exactly.
now he hosts breakfast television
Okay.
Toronto in the morning. But
I
yeah,
don't know, but I like him.
he
He's
does.
he's
Anyways,
incredibly entertaining to listen to. He's kind of like a Stephen A. Smith type of guy. He's like
a lot of hot
very
takes.
yeah, a lot of hot takes, a lot of emotion in what he taught. Like I don't agree with any of Stephen A. Smith's like hockey or not hockey sports opinions. I like do not take them seriously, but he is extremely talented in like the delivery. Like I admire his skill very much. So I like him regardless of whether I agree with him or not. And I was listening to Sid, and he was talking about the loss to the Flyers, and he was talking about Austin Matthews specifically, and like the worry that they have about him because he's second highest paid player in the league, and no goals in the last 8 games, blah 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 blah. And the panic. I'm sure you hear it more than I do. The panic in Toronto is just at all time high right now. And we're going to talk about Toronto later, but he was talking about Austin Matthews, and he showed a clip of him against Dan Vladar in overtime, and he's all alone in front, and Vladar stops him. And he's like, Vladar couldn't even make it in Calgary. He sucks. He's terrible. This is a horrible goalie. And I was just like, way to show that you have not been paying attention, because, what you were saying about Dan Vladar, like, I'm not saying he, like, if there was an all-star game, he was like an all-star necessarily, but he's kind of borderline. He's been very good. He
He's
had
probably
like
been the MVP of the Flyers, I would say,
yeah,
right?
arguably, right? He's one of three names this year that you could mention, with him probably being the favorite, right? It's like
I would
him,
say he's the
Zegras, and
favorite.
TK.
Yeah, that's the three, but I would say he's the favorite for me just because consistently he's having an impact on them winning games at this point. Whereas like Zegras and Konechny are too, but it's literally with him every night he's in there, it's usually a big impact. So
Yeah, and I think it's taken a lot of people by storm. And again, I bring this up because I really want people to have some. I see a lot of like questioning of Daniel Briere when he really has done such a good job in the incremental changes he has done. This time last year, no one thought that Dan Vladar would be a top 15 goalie in the league in the way that he's playing, which he has this year. He's been very good, and every single decision that Danny Briere has made has worked out. I would say 90% of them have worked out. So I think to set the tone for this trade deadline, even if you don't see exactly what you expect or want to see, at least have some benefit of the doubt for Danny Briere that he most likely will deliver on something good, even if it's not in the window that you expect it to be. And obviously, with the Ristolainen trade hanging over our heads, just think about where the Flyers would be this year without Dan Vladar in net. Like, we would be in the conversation right now with like teams that just do not have a goalie. Like
a
if it was
lottery pick.
Harrison,
They'd be in lottery pick territory again.
I agree. Look, I agree with that, but I'm saying that like people will be like the Flyers have no answer in net. Do you know what I'm saying? Because people don't know about Zavragin and Bjarnason. They're too far, and understandably so. They're out of the picture from the NHL window right now. It would look like there's no hope for the Flyers in net. And Dan Vladar has completely changed that. So I agree with you. When we do season end MVP, I mean, it's kind of undeniable that Dan Vladar is the favorite for MVP of the Flyers this year. So I think it's pretty well said. So I think it's like tentative optimism with the way they're playing. It's almost like you don't want them to win, but at the same time, there actually still is enough time for them to make a wild card spot.
Yeah, it would be tough.
Um,
I would be tough. Like you're gonna need to have the Bruins lose here a little bit. Like if the Bruins keep winning, it's gonna be pretty hard to catch them just with the amount of games left. But for me, the positive is the fact that in these wins, it's younger players contributing in key spots, key moments at big times. And that's exactly what
yep.
you want to see. And you want to see these young guys contribute when the games are on the line, they matter. Because at this point, they're still in the race here. So the games do matter. There's still an an actual result that could change things in terms of playoffs implications. So it's not like these games mean nothing. So these guys are, making these plays and having these big moments in these games when things actually matter. And that's what you need to do as a young player to be able to understand, okay, how do we win in this league? How do we close out certain games? And the fact that it's young guys doing it, that gives me confidence. It's not like your same cast of characters where it's just Konechny scoring or Ziegler scoring or that Dvorak line in general, right? Like it's kind of been a lot of different
Guys stepping up.
All at
Yeah.
once. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think what's the key there is that it's so and that's the other thing. Like, I keep hearing comparisons like Toronto would be like. I was listening to SDPN, and they were like, "Oh, Flyers, you're exactly where we are." It's like, no, we're not. We're one of the youngest teams in the league. We're full of young talent. You are not. You are floundering. So like, while you're like, yeah, we're about the same in the standings, that is a surface level argument because the reality is, you after what you just said, right? Like we have a core of guys here that will be part of the solution to being a legitimate playoff contender, right? And to see them go from floundering an entire month to getting a break and then coming back revitalized, it's important because, I brought up a while ago that I think Jamie Drysdale might end up being the best defenseman on this team next season, like beyond Travis Sanheim, and that's without Sanheim taking a step back. Obviously Cam York is still really young. We still have Emil Andre
Well, you're
out
just
there
seeing the offense start to come to fruition with Drysdale, right? Like we saw the defense earlier this season, and now we're seeing some of the offense start to
coming. Yeah,
take fruition and come into play. So if he can put it all together, man, he's going to be one dangerous defenseman just with the way he can skate. So.
but that's why it's so important to see him score that late goal, right?
Exactly.
Is because
builds the confidence.
and we need these guys to hit, right? Like the guys who have been coming up to your point, these are a crucial part of the solution. And even a guy like Brink, who's played well, like he might not be here for the long haul. He might end up being here for the long haul. But if he's not, it increases his value where we need to trade him, right? Like these young assets playing well is more important at the point that the Flyers are than them finishing 7th instead of 11th, right? Because the difference of player at that point is really not going to be a big difference between 7 and 11. Like it's a little bit better, you get your more of your choices. You can select the best player at a position. The Flyers, for instance, need like a defenseman probably as much as they need a center at this point. But like it matters that these guys get better like naturally, so we don't have to like rebuild all over again, right? Because that would be the worst case scenario. Okay, so speaking of building, let's get right into we'll review the trades that have happened so far. I'll start with the more recent ones. We'll go through each one of them, and then if there's any more, sorry, Elliot Friedman tweet here on the first one on the list. So, okay. So if there's any more information, we'll update it as the show goes on. I'll keep checking, so maybe we'll come back to trades throughout the show, depending on if something changes. But the big one out there, it's not confirmed quite yet. But Elliot Friedman's pretty much saying that the deal is closing in. We do not know the details of the trade, so if we get details as the show goes on, I'll go back to it. But Mackenzie Weegar from Calgary seems to have been traded to Utah. I don't know what the return is. I have seen like T. Jaginla on X.
For Calgary, I mean, that makes sense, but I don't know about for Utah.
That's almost what makes me feel like it's not real. You know what I mean? He's such a high pick.
And with the correlation with his dad obviously being a legend in Calgary,
that's why I was like,
Flames fans are kind of, not to say wishful thinking, but like that would be like their ultimate dream, right?
It almost feels like a troll return. So we'll await the details. So as of right now, we do not know. But I will say Utah adding Mackenzie Weegar, probably a good addition for them. They're like one of the teams kind of where the Flyers are, Anaheim. It's one of these.
Them and Sergachev together. I mean, that's a pretty legit pairing. So
yeah, so they needed it, and he's a veteran, right? And he can score from the back end. Should help them become more competitive. It does seem like a move that they will probably re-sign Weegar, right? They want him there for the long term. I don't think this is like a playoff rental trade for a team that's not a Stanley Cup favorite. But pretty big trade. Any other thoughts on the Weegar trade that we don't know the details going the other way?
I think it's hard just to analyze without any of the details, but I
Yeah.
will say for Utah, let's see right now. I'm just wondering. So Utah is they're right in the first wild card.
That,
So I mean, this is basically trying to solidify themselves to getting into the playoffs. Like Sharks are behind them with 4 points, 4 points out, and they're tied with Edmonton technically for
yeah.
like 68 points. So they're trying to solidify themselves, right? Like I mean, obviously they've added so much young talent over the last 4 or 5 seasons. Like it's time for them, I think, to try to take a step. Obviously, as from being the Coyotes to becoming the Mammoth. I mean, Logan Cooley's coming back from injuries looked really good. So I think they're just trying to kind of see what they can do with a young team making the
hmm
playoffs. But
And
Weegar will help them. Like he's had a lot of playoff experience with Florida, so
the funny part is like the Flyers would be in the playoffs if they
we're in
were
the
in the
West.
West. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Utah has 68 points, right?
Yeah.
Flyers have 67. Um, yeah, the East has definitely been like on average the stronger conference, but obviously top heavy there with the West having Colorado in particular, which and Dallas. I guess they're the two best teams in the league right now. And I guess you want to include Minnesota there now that they have Quinn Hughes.
They've
So
looked
that
so good
yeah,
with
the
him.
Central is by far the strongest division in hockey right now. So I guess maybe Tampa Bay can be included just because they've been so freaking good, but
For
looks like
so
they lost.
long.
Yeah, they lost three in a row recently, but outside of that, they were like on a monster run. And then Buffalo Sabres are 2 points out of first place. They do have two games more played than Tampa Bay, but still
I
uh,
mean,
crazy.
do we want to go to the next trade involving them?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. Yeah, good point. So the next trade we have, and this is a big one, Colton Parayko, a player that has been rumored to be moved for like 2 years already, maybe more, probably as long as Ristolainen's been rumored. He has been officially traded to the Sabres with for a pretty hefty return. Former top 10 pick Radim Murtka from this past draft and a first round pick on top of it, which will most likely be a later first round pick. But a really nice return for St. Louis. Colton Parayko is obviously an Olympian, obviously a very good top four defenseman. He's getting up there in age, but clearly has plenty of value. And for Buffalo, I think it's a look. They paid a hefty price, but they have been so bad for so long, and they finally have some momentum where they're playing like one of the best teams in the league as of late. Over the I guess the second half here for sure. Um, They've been very good over the second half. And, adding a guy like Parayko to a relatively deep blue line, which has underperformed under the previous GM, but now under Jarmo Kekalainen, everything changed overnight, which is funny how sometimes, changing the GM will affect the team. But yeah, it looks like Parayko is going to be a Sabre, and I'm not entirely sure where he's going to play. Maybe top pairing, but probably, second pairing guy
I'd
over there.
imagine it'll be second because I think they have
Top
what
PK
that
guy,
yeah,
probably.
that top pairing for them is Dahlin and Samuelson. Like they have like that Swedish
Like
connection going
yeah, but
on.
I
So they
I would,
probably won't switch
yeah,
it
yeah.
up.
Sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say like they have those two, Dahlin Samuelson. So Swedish connection, they've been playing well. So maybe they won't try to shake it up so much. I'd
But then you have
imagine they
the second unit is what Power
Byram.
and Byram
Yeah, so I'd imagine they'd probably put him in
with Kesselring.
with power maybe, and then
Oh
have Byram, kind of go shift down, and then you kind of have three really really solid pairs.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it definitely helps their chances. I really like the trade from the Sabre standpoint, and I love the return for St. Louis, who's a team looking to rebuild. And obviously, Robert Thomas conversation. We're going to talk about him when we get to like the speculation talk.
Yeah, Buffalo
Um,
was rumored to be involved for him, but I honestly it seems like he might not even get moved. So
I don't think he's getting moved, and I have more details on that from Frank Cervalli, which I thought he brought up a great point. Which, yeah, I don't see him getting
well,
moved.
what I think is this is just laying the stage for him eventually getting moved in the summer. That's what it
Yeah,
seems like to
yeah,
me,
I
right?
think that's fair.
Because you have a lot of teams kind of competing right now,
Yeah.
maybe not giving what St. Louis wants, but maybe that's because you will have a lot more flexibility to meet their demands in the offseason
Well,
versus
like
at a trade deadline.
teams
So
like the Flyers are not desperate to add right now, right?
no,
And I'm just using the
exactly.
Flyers as an example, but teams that are middle of the road will be looking to add in
No,
the
for sure.
offseason, and the UFA market is barren, so it's not going to be a good UFA class once again. So, like trades will probably be the biggest thing to happen in the UFA, especially with the cap going up. There's going to probably be a good amount of shifting. So yeah, Colton Parayko, Buffalo Sabre. The next one was a little bit older one, but definitely this one we're going defenseman here, so obviously these all affect the Flyers in some capacity with the Ristolainen market. Connor Murphy was moved from Chicago to Edmonton for a 2028 second round pick. It kind of makes sense. Like Murphy's big, sizable defenseman. Had a big pedigree in his younger career, but like never really did too much. And is like a pretty decent defenseman. I think with Edmonton, he's going to end up playing like bottom pairing. Maybe he'll end up playing some middle pairing role, but doesn't seem like a huge addition. But their defense has been so bad, or they've been bad as a defensive unit. Let's put it that way, as a team,
Yeah.
that they, not surprising. And obviously, they were one of the teams that were in on Ristolainen from rumors.
I mean, the Murphy deal, it's pretty fair value for a defense with the trade deadline. He can play like on that second pair for you. He could be like a part of your third pair if you have a really deep blue line. Um, I'm not sure if Wallman's injured for Edmonton, but I think he's had some injury trouble, so that might be a part of why they made the trade as well. But yeah, like I think for Murphy and just the way Edmonton's lines are set up and like how their depth's been defensively, like it makes sense because he adds a little bit for them in terms of like the physicality. Like they had Spencer Stastny playing on the second pair for them. Like he should probably be more of like a third pair guy, right? So guesses they'll probably try to get Murphy in there on that second pair. I would say for Edmonton too, like I don't believe they're having a really good start after the break. Like I think they've lost several games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So they're probably looking to try to shake things up and try to get things back on track just because they're literally tied for that last wild card spot. So you have San Jose win a couple games and you could be out of the playoffs. So I think they probably want to start getting things back on track. They've won one game, but before the one win, um, they lost to the Ducks, lost to the Sharks, did beat the Kings 8-1. So yeah. And then before the break, four losses straight. So
Yeah. So
interesting for Edmonton.
yeah,
But they
they're.
kind of always seem to turn it on in the playoffs though. Like they as long
I
as they
think
get in.
yeah, it's really the McDavid Draisaitl. It's like this is what I said last
They
year. It's like
will
there's
them to
so
where they
much.
yeah, they will them to that point, and then once the level of talent gets to a certain degree, like they're in the finals, it's just hard for them to will them past that to win, I would say. But
Yeah. Um. No. That's why I don't love them as a Stanley Cup team because they ride so heavily on their top two
they don't have
players.
a lot of depth, yeah.
Yes. Where like you look at a team like Florida, yes, they have Barkov and they have Tkachuk, but the crew around them is just better. Though I will say it's not like Edmonton only has them, right? They have other
Yeah.
good players. They've done a good job filling out their roster. Obviously, their biggest need has been in net.
And
I
it
don't.
still is, even after trading for Tristan Jerry.
Yeah, apparently his numbers have been like Airson bad. So.
Yeah, which is funny because Skinner's actually been pretty good for Pittsburgh. So
Well,
it's
that
funny
just
how that
shows
works.
you it just shows you it's not just the goalie, it's also the
Who's
team.
playing in front of them, what
Yes,
their
and
scheme is defensively. So
exactly. It's how they play. Which is it's a combination of all of them. It's never just one thing. Like
yeah.
you look at the Rangers, right? They have like arguably the second best goalie in the world. He's the top three goalie in the world, in Shesterkin, and yet, they haven't been great defensively. They're not stopping everything. He's a phenomenal goalie, but you just can't do everything. Like Brodeur was exceptional, but he also had a great defense in front of him and a great defensive scheme in front of him for all those years. It really helps, when you're already that talented, it just becomes a wall to play against. Uh, I guess the next big move we had, which happened today, this is another one that competes with the Ristolainen trade rumors. Tyler Myers moved to Dallas, which was also one of the names, one of the teams that were named that had interest in Ristolainen. He netted a return of a second round pick in 2027 and a fourth round pick in 2029. I think considering Myers' age and the fact that they ate 50% of the contract, which I talked about how the Flyers could potentially do that with Ristolainen. They ate 50% of the deal, and they get to keep Myers. I think he still has another year beyond this year. He had a no
Yeah.
trade clause too, which is
I would say like
interesting.
I think this Myers trade and Murphy trade, both of them going for like a second rounder, second to fourth. I think it solidifies that you'll probably see Ristolainen go for a first rounder. That's what this kind of solidifies to me because I would say he's a notch above them in terms
Yes.
of just play on the ice,
He's
right? So
like in between Parayko and them, right?
pretty much, exactly. And I would say they're not going to be getting a prospect on the level of
Merca.
Merca, right? But they will get a first and probably maybe like a B or C
It it
prospect
it just
at.
shows how great of a job Danny did with the Laughton trade, where they got Grabankin, who is, like a C plus level prospect, NHL caliber prospect, but then get a late first round pick on top of
Yeah.
it.
And
That is,
it's
yeah,
funny too because the Leafs I think are scratching Lawton tonight, and the rumors are that they're looking for a second and a prospect, so they're not even going to get what they paid in return for him,
of course
unfortunately.
not.
But we'll see. Maybe they might get a first, late first. We'll see.
Yeah. But we'll see because every season's a little different too. So yeah, Tyler Myers moves on to Dallas. I think a good addition for Dallas. They're already one of the favorites. And depth wins championships, so I think it was a good addition for them. He does not have to play a critical role there. I think in a bottom pairing role for Dallas.
His size and physicality will be
Yeah,
helpful.
and
Yeah.
him and Liam, what's his name? Liam Bouchel. I think it's Bouchel.
Yeah.
They're both 6'7", so it's like
Huge.
I can imagine that's their bottom pairing. Just monsters, 6'9" on ice type of guys. Yeah, he's also nowhere near as mean as Ristolainen, which has always been the knock on Tyler Myers, is that he was more of an offensive defenseman at 6'7". So they're not getting like a mean defenseman at 6'7", but a guy who obviously knows how to use his size and has, at least at this point, a little bit of offensive upside. So good move for Dallas there. They did pay a high price for him, but again, they got to go for it. I mean, this is their window. They don't know what's going on with Robertson beyond this year. Like this is a good price to pay. And it's not even this upcoming draft. The other one, and I guess these are both from Nashville, so we can put them together. I forgot to put one of them on the list, Vasili, but I added it here because I remembered while we were talking. I was like, oh, they made another trade. So they moved Cole Smith for Christopher Sadoff. I don't know who he is, and a third round pick. And they moved Michael McCarron to the Wild for a second round pick. Who is the other trade for? God damn it. I didn't write that down like a dummy, like a big old dummy. They moved to the Golden Knights. Sorry, Cole Smith went to the Golden Knights. So I think both of these seem like, I don't know. I guess a third round pick for Cole Smith. He's like okay, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't think that it's I don't know. I don't think it's the best. I feel like it's a bit of an overpay, to be
I,
honest.
yeah, it's like I guess he's like a Garnet Hathaway
Yeah.
type. He's not having an abysmal season offensively. He has 10 points in 42 games, where Hathaway's got 2 points. So, but I guess that shows you what Hathaway could net us normally. Would have been probably like a third round pick. Right now, he probably would get us like a fifth or a sixth round pick.
I mean, he's
Um,
basically gonna fill in some depth for the Golden Knights. I know Stone's injured right now. So he kind of slots in for them. Like I think Braden Bowman will probably rise up on the Knights roster. They'll probably have him slot in where Bowman is. So it'll be interesting, but it's not a groundbreaking move. But like, look at Vegas. I don't know. It's like clockwork with them. Mark Stone just magically always becomes injured around the trade deadline when you might want to make a move or
Yeah, but
something.
the rules are changing now,
I
so
know, I
yeah,
know.
they can't get away with that anymore. So they have to go with a simple
So it
trade.
must be a real injury this time.
Right. Yeah. Michael McCarron maybe is the more interesting. He is a mammoth centerman, center slash winger. Very good at faceoffs, from what I understand. He got a second round pick, and the Wild are going for it. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
It's a 2028 second round pick, so it's kind of down the line. A lot of these assets are not this year, which I found interesting. Like teams are not trading this year's
Yeah.
picks, like they're trading next year and beyond, which is more like the NBA style, which is interesting. But makes me even more confident that Risto is worth a first round pick because like you look at what Michael McCarron got, it's like
A second rounder,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that probably normally wouldn't be a second rounder. Like it probably would have been a third or fourth round pick. Second round pick sounds like a lot. Maybe that was the price they had to pay to give a 2028 pick rather than
Maybe it's all. I mean, it's not like he's done a lot for Nashville. Like he only has 12 points this season.
he's
He's
like a
basically
defensive expert, I
he's
guess.
pretty much a fourth line type center, right? Like that's what they're looking for. Like he's gonna be slotting in for the Wild in their most position of need, right? Like their center depth probably lacks the most out of all their positions. So
Yeah.
they're trying to shore things up for the playoffs. So for them it makes sense. Like for them to spend a second round pick, they're kind of going all in on it this
Yeah.
season. So it's not surprising to me if that's what it took to get it done, but I definitely think it's high. Like, and I mean, he is a center, and he shoots right-handed, but it's still high for a guy that, I mean, the most points he's ever gotten in his career is 22 points. So it's not like he's only ever scored, like the most goals he ever scored is only 12 goals. So it's not like he's putting up a ton of offense really for that second round pick. So
Yeah. Just a quick update on the Mackenzie Weegar trade. Darren Dreger says that he's told TJ Ginla is not involved.
that makes sense.
Yes, that's
Because
why I heard that and I was like, it seems like a
to be
troll.
honest, I feel like if it was a Ginla, it literally would have had to been a Ginla for him straight up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely not add more if I was Utah. I wouldn't trade TJ Ginla if I were them in general.
Me neither, yeah.
Um,
Especially after how he played at the World Juniors this year is really good for
Yeah, and
Canada.
you're also this is the same reason why the Flyers shouldn't go out and get like this is why the Flyers didn't make a big move yet. You're not going to win a Stanley Cup this year. So over investing, is just silly.
Yeah.
Paying a decent amount for a guy you think will be there for the next 3-4 years, that's not a bad move. But like trading one of your best assets
Not
when you're
ideal,
not
yeah.
even going to win a cup, no. Like if
And for
you're
Utah, yeah, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You can
I
cut
was
me
just gonna
off.
say for Utah, like it makes sense for them because if you're not trading a guy like Ginla, just kind of like a first round pick, Uyghur's gonna bolster things for you. But if it's beyond that, like it's not like he's been otherworldly for Calgary. He's honestly fallen off a bit since he went to Calgary from Florida, right? So
Yeah.
they're probably hoping, hey, we get him, playing with Sergachev on a roster that scores a little bit more than Calgary. Maybe we can kind of find that form that he did have in Florida, right?
I expect for Weegar like a little bit better of a return than what you get for Risto, like a late first round pick and a pretty good prospect,
Like a
not a blue chip prospect.
no.
A guy who's
I
maybe
would say
like
Risto's
maybe
like a
like a
C
bonk.
prospect. Yeah, Risto's like a C prospect you might get, CC plus, whereas like I would say with him it's like a B.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. Um, yeah, the next one I have is this trade I also didn't fully understand.
From a
So
couple of days ago, right?
yeah, so the Avs trade for Brett Kulak, I guess a bigger defenseman, for Samuel Girard, who's always been the comparison for Emil Andre.
Contract reasons, his hit cap hits a little more, so I think they're trying to do another make another move in there as
Yeah,
well.
that might be, but they had to add a second round pick on top of it as well. So I think Pittsburgh won that trade considering where they are. And Samuel Girard, I mean, he's undersized, but he's serviceable. Probably
It's
his career.
crazy. He's only 27. It feels like he's been around forever.
I totally thought he was 30.
He's
Yeah,
only
you got me.
27. That's wild.
Yeah, it seems like a pure win. It seems to me like what's his name? Dubas has been doing a good job with the Penguins, to be honest
Yeah,
with you, with the
unfortunately,
position
and
he's in.
to be fair, like it's not like Gerard, like he's kind of taken a step back from what he's really good at with Colorado because Cale Makar is Cale Makar, so he
Right.
kind of gets all the offensive situations. And I mean, now with Carlson out for Pittsburgh, I'm assuming he's gonna probably run their power
I
play.
mean,
So
yeah, I mean Samuel Girard is a 25 to 30 point defenseman. He's never been like an offensive dynamo. He's just been a smaller guy who can move the puck well and, plays above his weight, right?
yeah,
Similar to Andrae.
but decent
So
on the power play, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him.
yeah, good move for the Penguins. A little confused by it for Colorado, but yeah, maybe they have more in the work. I know that their whole thing is Cale Makar re-signing coming up, and he's going to
Yeah,
probably demand like 16 to 18 million. So they're gonna have to figure out how much to pay this kid. And
yeah,
that obviously means they need cheaper contracts around him. That's why I thought there was a good fit there for Risto at 50% retained because you can get a legitimate top four defenseman and you can help, at least you're not going to sign a guy like Risto for $2.5 million on the open
yeah.
market this offseason. So we'll see, but I guess they went with Brett Kulak on that. And then there's a Flyers trade, and we'll spend a little bit of time on this one. So the Flyers made a minor trade so far. Boris Katchouk for the newly acquired Roman Schmidt. Roman Schmidt was, if you guys recall, was acquired for Ethan Sampson, the Flyers draft pick, previously in the year. Roman Schmidt did not play too much this
Yeah.
year. He played a bottom pairing role for the Phantoms. I think he didn't fit in that well, which is because he's a very big defenseman. And I don't know if they gave up on him, but I kind of recognize that where the Phantoms are, they are spiraling a little bit. They've been doing better since Bump came back in the lineup. They've been winning a few more games now and scoring more goals, but I think they needed more offensive punch. So I assume that's why they made this Boris Katchouk trade.
And they have a lot of defensemen. Like to your point, he wasn't playing a lot. It's pretty crowded on the defense, so it makes sense to move for a forward. What this does indicate to me, though, is to your point, like they definitely need some help offensively, just with obviously having Barkey come up and not really being able to rely on him anymore in the AHL. Bump's kind of turning things on now, which is
Yeah, he
good.
was
But
out for a while.
but even for him, yeah, I was gonna say like even for him, he was out, and when he was out, they were really struggling offensively. But it does kind of make you wonder, like if you were gonna trade Schmidt and he wasn't really a fit, like it kind of makes you wonder, like why did you trade Ethan Sampson in the first place? So it's kind of a little puzzling
Well,
because I think I would say,
RFA
yeah, RFA, but I would just say like Sampson's upside to me
is
seemed like it
higher
was
than Schmidt's.
more plausible and yeah, higher than Schmidt's, higher than Kachuk's at this point because he's 27. So
Yeah.
that's
That's why
why just a little weird, but.
Boris Kachuk seems like he's going to be here temporarily to help the
They won't
Phantoms.
sign him back, and it'll
No.
be an open contract slot basically
And
for
and maybe
Briere.
that's it because I talked to everybody about this in the last two episodes, the amount of turnover there's going to be throughout the entire depth of the Flyers.
They might be
You know,
signing guys out of college. They might need those
yes,
roster slots,
we're
right?
gonna talk about one of them a little bit later in the show. But I do know Boris Kachuk. Bill Meltzer already tweeted this out, but I remember his name quite a bit because he was line mates with Morgan Frost. He was a very good juniors player. He was a former second round pick. So he's a guy who kind of hasn't lived up to his name, which maybe there's a revitalization. 27 years old. He has NHL experience. He's primarily an AHL guy at this point. So maybe the Flyers even see it as like, oh, we might call him up to the NHL at some point if
To be
we
a
move
fourth
on.
liner. Yeah.
Yeah, if we move on with some guys, he is a guy with size. But you got to figure like Alex Bump has 4 goals in his last 5 games. They're probably, if there's a spot open at this point, with Forrester being out the rest of the year, I feel like it's such a huge loss for the Flyers with Forrester. It's like we forget about it because it's been so long, but Forrester's so good. Like I heard Tocchet bring it up, and he called him a 35 goal scorer, which again, he had 10 goals in 21 games. Like that's
He
not
was
out of
on
the realm.
pace. Yeah.
Yeah, that he could have led this team in goals this year with 35 goals. So I'm really looking forward to next season at this point, see what Danny Briere can do. I think, we don't need to watch it happen at the trade deadline. That's not the type of off season we're looking at. But yeah, I thought this was a solid trade. I mean, the Phantoms need help, and Schmidt wasn't helping them, and he can
Yeah,
help.
you're basically subbing in a guy that wasn't playing for a guy that will play, and he might play like in a top six role. So
Yeah, we'll see. The Phantoms are actually they like have a good roster, and they were really good. They just been underperforming.
a lot of
Um,
injuries at bad times too for them,
yeah,
unfortunately.
and call ups and whatnot. So yeah, so we'll see how Boris Kachuk is. I'll keep an eye on him from a statistical standpoint. He has yet to play for the Phantoms. He did not play in yesterday's game. So okay, let's talk. Let me just refresh X here. Just make
Let's
sure I
see if we
didn't
have
miss
any
anything.
trades. Yeah, well, we're in the thick of it, everybody. So at any point, there could be somebody getting traded, which is always the fun part about the trade deadline season.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now.
Scott
So
Laughton and Oliver Ekman-Larsson will be scratched tonight by the Leafs, so it looks like those
and
two will
and
be on the
Bobby
move.
and Bobby McMahon as well.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I saw that too.
yeah. We have a whole where we're going to talk about that in the second half, the sellers portion. So let's talk about the Flyers. So the main rumor is Rasmus Ristolainen. So I will say I listened to Frank Cervalli on the NHL Network, and he does not believe that Rasmus Ristolainen will be moved this trade deadline. And like, I think, look, I don't think it's like top of the Flyers list. I know a lot of people want to create this like, oh, he played well in the playoff or in the Olympics, and he showed that he's healthy, which I do think is important. But I don't think that that really changes his value. Hence, why the Flyers have not moved off their asking price. The player kind of is what he is. Is it a good window to trade him? Probably, though you are kind of moving against your initial statement to the team, which was I'm not going to remove from the roster. If there is that deal, and again, I do not believe a second round pick is worth it, and I'll go into more detail on that in a second. My ask is if it's a second round pick, it better be a good defensive young prospect with it. If it's a first round pick, I'll take a more average prospect and doesn't even need to be defenseman at that point. But I need something that I could potentially replace Ristolainen with in the future. Otherwise, I'm not that interested. And this is something that I think is really important for people to understand. If it's not something you've thought about, maybe you have. But Danny Briere has a reputation as not an easy negotiator. He does not want to lose that reputation. That second round pick you get is not worth it for where the Flyers currently stand. They drafted 4 second round picks last year. They have plenty of assets. Is not worth burning that reputation. You want to know in negotiations that you will hold him, like you will not break. That is your price, and you will not break. They have to break. You want that reputation on you, so teams do not mess around on you and wait and be like, "Oh, we'll get him down." No, we know Danny Briere won't go down. I'd rather, if I was Danny Briere, and people might not like this, I'd rather lose Risto for nothing than to lose the reputation. And I just listened to Berkey on Daily Faceoff in an interview, and he talked about when he was under Brad Treliving back in the day. He talked about how they would not move off of a certain value for Ryan Kessler, and they believe that another trade they had the following year went better because they refused to budge on Kessler the previous season because teams knew that they would wait you out. That is what, and this is why I keep talking about leverage. This is Danny's leverage. You don't want to pay the price for Risto? Fine. I'd rather lose him for nothing.
But I think to your point, like the Flyers aren't really between a rock and a hard place right now, like maybe some other teams could be with some assets they're trying to move. And reason being, you have Ristolainen under contract for that extra season. And I think Briere probably knows that, hey, if I don't trade Ristolainen now, I can probably trade him next season for almost
Or
the exact same package or even more, right?
or
Because
and in the offseason,
and
right?
in the
Not
off, yeah, and in the off season, well, that's always an opportunity. But I just look at it this way: there's two, I guess, facets to it, right? Like some teams might look at Ristolainen being more attractive, especially if they're contenders, because he has that extra year, so they don't have to make another
sure.
addition maybe next season. You have him kind of for 2 playoff runs potentially. And some teams might not like that. They might not like the
because they're in a
flexibility.
cap. They're in a
Yeah,
cap
exactly.
situation.
And
Yeah.
they might think, hey, like, you know what? We think that money can be used out better elsewhere in the offseason. We don't want to be tied down to that extra year of whatever 5.25 million, whatever it is. So maybe we don't want to make that deal. And that's where I would say the second kind of situation opens up where next season you could have a whole other subset of teams that are more interested because he's a UFA and you aren't really tied down to anything, right? So
100%.
there's two options. I think personally that they will probably look to move him and try to move him, but I
Yes.
also think that the asking price is a firm first rounder at the minimum. So I don't think they're budging off that. And if you look at what Parayko just got, that pretty much sets the market. And if the Flyers would retain half of the cap hit, 2.55 million, I'd imagine they'd be able to get like probably the first rounder and a B or C prospect. Depends on the team. Depends on how many teams are potentially desperate. I think now with Dallas adding a defenseman, Buffalo adding their defenseman, we've heard of Boston sniffing around Ristolainen, and we've heard of Montreal potentially being interested. I think Detroit as well
Yep.
is a team that was also interested. So I think those seems to be like the three major players. So we'll kind of see what
And
ends up happening. If you're the Flyers, I mean, you could somehow get like a first round pick and a Nate Danielson from
I think that
um
I think it would be a second and Nate Danielson. I think that's a little too much, but
that's a
I hear
that
you.
would be like the ideal, right? Like if you could fleece them for
I
something
would
like
do it
that
just
because
for
they
Nate Danielson, straight
me
up.
too, me too. But what I'm trying to say is like this is where let's say you play these teams off each other because they're all in the same division, right? Like it's Detroit, it's Boston, Montreal, all in that same division. It's an arms race. Like, oh, do you want to be able to add this piece to make sure that
You keep up
another
with your
team
opponent, or they don't get him.
or they don't get him and then you have to face them in the playoffs or something, right? So that's the way that I would look at it if I'm Briere and I'm trying to
100%.
negotiate against these
100%,
other
bro.
teams.
It's a
But
great point.
I think he is not really in a position where he has to move him because it's not like he's going to UFA, so he's losing out on potential assets. Like
Right.
you're gonna be able to maybe move him in the off season or at next year's deadline. So I think honestly the Flyers are in a really good position here. They kind of hold all the cards, right?
Yeah, and I'll say this, and I don't think people are gonna like what I'm about to say here, but you have to think about it just a little bit. If the Flyers don't move him at all, which I know it sounds like a nightmare scenario, it is not a horrible idea to think about re-signing. I know, hear me out. Re-signing Ristolainen for another year or two after his contract expires at a lesser rate for an aging defenseman as a bottom pairing defenseman on this team. They like him. He's happy here. He probably will still be good in a bottom pairing defensive defenseman role. And you have another guy in Nick Seeler who maybe that'll be the guy that you trade at the trade deadline. Maybe that is what you end up doing. And you ended up thinking like, well, Risto will be our bottom pairing, veteran that plays with some young guy that we put in the lineup. I'm just saying they're back. And to add to what Vasili's saying, they're not up against the wall. They have options, and we don't need. And for everybody who thinks they don't, I know a lot of people like obviously recognize how great of a job Danny did with the Laughton trade. The year before that, people were freaking out, saying he wasn't going to get what he wanted, but he just stayed patient. It is his weapon, that ability. This is what I kept talking about. This is why they have all the assets, they have all the cap space, and they have the time. In every negotiation, that gives them leverage. That's what they're banking on. So when he makes a trade, it's a win. It's either break even or a win. And that's what they need to speed up this process. So is it a good time again? We'll circle back to trading Risto. Probably. There's probably a good opportunity here, and I think the Flyers, if they get the right offer, should go for it. But it does not mean if they don't pull out this deal that they won't
Uh,
have another opportunity or it's a loss, like something to freak out about. Go ahead.
Yeah,
So
I don't think they should back off on their asking price, right? Like I think to your point, that will be a detriment to this front office in the future when you're trying to make deals. I
yes,
think you should hold your negotiating price firm to
hold
know
firm.
that
Yep.
Yeah, well, other teams just know that, hey, it's not going to be an easy negotiation when we try to make a deal with the Flyers. It's going to have
Anytime.
to be a fair deal. But that's the reputation you want to make for yourself versus how this team was operating under Chuck Fletcher, where they could be fleeced at any moment, right? So
Like what
I
they
think,
paid for Risto, which was
yeah,
too
right.
much.
Exactly. So I think at this point they've done a good job as front office of kind of repairing that
Reputation.
yeah, reputation, that mindset that other teams have had about this organization for a little bit. And I think, to be honest, like with the way it's looking and with certain defensemen that have been moved today, like if people and if teams want to make an ad on defense, there's not really a lot left in the market. So Ristolainen kind of is almost a prized
He
possession at this
is the
point.
best person
So
left.
I,
Yeah.
I would
Of
imagine
D.
that he gets moved. But even if he doesn't, I will give Briere credit for sticking to his firm price, and he'll likely move him next trade deadline for something similar. I think the Flyers will, at the end of the day, I don't know when they move Rasmus Ristolainen, but I think they will get a first round pick for him. So
Yeah, I mean, look, they what if they're a good team next year though, and he's part of that recipe? I don't
I mean, that's a different situation.
right.
If they're good next year and they're in the playoffs like firmly all season, they obviously won't move him. But I'm saying like if they're in the same situation next
Sure.
year, then
Yeah, yeah.
they'll definitely
Of
trade him,
course,
right?
of course. Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that statement. But it's something we have to consider about that it is it's a shifting situation and it's not black and white here like people want to
Yeah.
try to make it out to be. And again, I still stand by the reputation is more important, than a second round pick or a decent prospect or whatever that, maybe will play in the NHL. Like that's not going to do anything for you because the Flyers have more moves to make and he needs to keep this reputation for a while longer because the big move has not happened yet, which he's probably looking to make. He does not want to hurt his reputation as a GM, as a soft negotiator at all. Having said that, I think, eating a contract like Risto, which he is of value to the amount that he makes, the Flyers, because they have the cap space next year, they probably will not spend all the way to the cap, right? They can eat 50% of that contract. That's a way of working with the team. Like I don't think Tyler Myers gets that return without eating 50% of his contract, right?
Yeah,
So I think
probably.
that's something where Danny can, he can be softer on the team. I'll eat some of the contract. I'll take potentially a bad contract or a contract like the Grundstrom contract that you don't want. I'll take that off your books too, so you can fit him underneath your cap, right? So he
Yeah.
can work with teams in other ways to get what he wants. And he's really good at that. At least he's shown that he's really good at getting creative in those situations. So I just have a lot of faith in him right now. He's not giving me any
Well, he hasn't had
reason
that
not
big
to.
blund he hasn't had that big blunder or anything to be like, well, he doesn't know what he's doing or something. So until that point, I can't really make that up out of thin air,
Yeah.
or anything. Um,
So yeah,
do we expect Yariv like any do you
well
think
let's
we'll
go
see any of
let's go through.
Grunstrom, Hathaway, Delorier, Juleson? Do you think we'll
So
see any of
yeah,
those
so
guys go?
the next tier, right? So we have the extras, right? That's what I named them in here. So these are the guys who the team could move away from, doesn't set the team back really, don't have a huge demand for them, but could net something, later round picks or something like that, and free up space for like some younger guys. So top of the list, Grunstrom. I think Grunstrom does have some value in a trade. They're playing him at center right now, so his value to the Flyers actually increased because whoever's trading for him is not playing him at center. I think there's a decent chance. I
As
think
a
that would
depth
be
piece,
like
yeah.
very end of the trade deadline. Teams are looking
Sixth round
around.
pick type deal, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Teams are looking around. We didn't get anything, but we do need another
This
forward.
guy scored some goals this season. Maybe he can score a couple goals for us, or
Yeah,
randomly. So type of
yeah.
deal.
I think D'Lo is as simple as like, hey, our
Do you
star
need a
player keeps
fighter?
getting beat. Yeah, keeps getting beat up. It's like a Ryan Reeves thing. Like they could actually potentially get more for D'Lo than anybody thinks, just because of the sheer fact that he's going to come into the organization, do exactly what you need him to do. He's not going to play a lot, but he's going to punch people in the face, and he's damn good at it.
I would say it's like a 30% chance Laurie
I
gets moved. Like it's not too high, but I could maybe
I
if
would
there's a
move him
market
in a
out there.
heartbeat.
No,
Yeah.
I say I would move him. I just don't know if there's like a significant market out for a player
I
like him. But
I would, yeah, that's the thing is like it's very specific type of situation. Um and you'd have to eat his cap too. 50% of
Yeah,
his cap, right? Because
that's the thing.
nobody wants to pay Delorier 1.8 million, 1.7 million or whatever. So you'd have to eat 50% of his contract just to get him out the door.
It'd
But you
have
could
to be a
net
team that like gets pushed around a lot. Because I'd imagine like a real serious contender wouldn't trade for him because they just probably wouldn't play him, right? So it'd have to be a team that really gets pushed around a lot,
well,
like a real specific
it
scenario.
would have to be like I'm just throwing out an example here, and the Devils do not even. But like Jack Hughes tends to get hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Like let's say a guy like Jack Hughes, number one center. You're like, hey, I don't want anybody taking any liberties on this guy. We have a playoff run. He is a policeman, and he's good. He's very good at being a policeman. Despite of how he is at hockey, which again, he's not a net negative on defense at all. He's
No, no.
reliable defensively. Offensively, he's a negative, but he will do his job well. So, like you said, I think 30% sounds about right. I don't know what they could get for him. Maybe a fifth round pick, eating 50% of his contract. Maybe maybe not even that. I'm not sure.
It'd
But
be a
these
late
guys
pick
tend
if anything. Yeah.
they tend to get more for these guys than people think just because of their unique skill set. Garnet Hathaway, if he wasn't having the type of season he was having, I would say the Flyers could get something for him. I think they see him as the next Nick Delorier on the team. So I think they're gonna most likely like not bother to eat his contract because that's what you'd have to do. He makes 2.5 million. So you're not going to eat 1.4 million, 1.2 million or whatever just to get rid of him. I think there's almost no chance Hathaway gets traded. I imagine he's going to play 13th forward unless he rebounds next year. He'll be back in the lineup. But he's going
Yeah,
to be like
I
12th,
don't
13th forward.
I don't see him getting moved just with his cap hit.
Yeah, and
Unless some sort of team is really desperate, and the only way I could see it is the Flyers like eating half, and yeah,
I don't see it happening. If he
me
played
neither,
center,
really.
even if he didn't score, I think there's a chance. But that seems like
As for a winger, yeah,
next year's trade
deadline
deadline.
maybe. I agree.
And then Noah Juleson, outside of Risto, I think he's the most realistic.
He's the easiest to trade just in terms of the fact you have
Makes under a
no,
mil.
yeah, it makes under a mil. There's no worries about a contract. He'll be a UFA. He's like a perfect seventh type defenseman for
Yeah,
pretty much any team. Like he can play on your third pair in a pinch. You don't want him to be like probably the everyday third pair guy for you,
but
but as your
seventh,
fill
eighth
in,
defenseman.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think a team out there might look to just shore up their depth. I think the
Fifth,
Flyers would be
sixth
open
round
to
type
it.
pick. They'll
Yeah.
basically take anything they could get for him, probably. Like,
And you look at the scenario, and I'm just thinking about it from Briere's standpoint. You want Andrae playing. You
yeah,
called up Yinning, who made the team out of camp. And if you think you're borderline anyway, playoff team, you might be like, let's just get rid of Juleson. It'll be good for him. He'll go play in the playoffs. And
we
like,
get a
we
late
don't have to,
pick.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't have to worry about this dynamic
Yeah,
anymore,
and you
you
can
know?
get Yinning in there if you need to. He's played a couple games. Like he's not gonna really have a future with the organization, but that would be a good send off for him.
Yeah.
So
And there's still like Grons and Bonk, there's
there's
still
depth in terms of young guys
yeah,
eventually.
that you
So
could like call up if need be, if you don't really see yourself as like a contender, which they obviously don't. So I think Juleson's the highest one. I could see him netting like a fifth round pick,
yeah,
something like that. And then this is, I guess, the interesting conversation. I refer to these as the assets. So Owen Tippett's name has been flying around everywhere. Apparently Boston, I'd be honest. So like apparently the Flyers had to talk to Owen Tippett because his names were in rumors. And they were like, hey, we're getting calls on you. We're not calling people
yeah, this was
to,
early in the
to trade
season,
you.
right? Yeah,
And I think they wanted to rest assured. I'll be honest. I think there is 0% chance, let's say 1% chance that Owen Tippett is moved at the trade deadline. I think it's not happening. I think they really like him. I think defensively he's improved his game tremendously. I think he's a very good cost for what he brings, and I think they see him as a core piece. And he's the only speedster winger with size and power on in the organization. I cannot see them moving him. The return would have to be an overpayment. I heard James Hagen's name's flying out there. That would have to be the overpayment for
yeah,
him.
definitely.
Outside of that, I cannot see the Flyers trading Owen Tippett, and I can't see somebody like desperately trading for an Owen Tippett right now.
My thing is this, like I could see the Flyers trading Tippett, but I just don't see them trading him at the deadline.
At the deadline is what I'm talking about.
Because
Yes.
I just don't think it makes sense. Like any team they're going to trade with at the deadline is adding him for a playoff run. They're not going to want to really subtract anything for their roster. So unless it's like an A plus prospect or something and like a first round pick, then maybe it would make sense. And the A plus prospect is kind of close, like a Hagens, for example. But I don't think Boston would trade
No.
Hagens for Tippett, first of all. So yeah, it doesn't seem like something they would do. Like for me, Tippett is a guy where like he would need to be a part of a bigger package. And that's where the Flyers like shore up that 1C issue or get a bona fide number one
Yeah.
defenseman, that type of thing. But that's not available at the trade deadline, which is kind of why I
Correct.
don't see them wasting the value that he has to kind of add more like lottery tickets to the cupboard. Like I think they're trying to turn potential value into higher value assets versus more lottery ticket assets like draft picks and prospects at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I don't. Could it be part of a larger package or like a hockey trade? Right?
maybe.
Yes, that is possible, and that's not going to happen now. And I really don't think he's even top of the Flyers list of somebody they want to move. But he could be a guy that like, hey, this is the ask. On the other hand,
Yeah,
and it has
if
to
we get a
be.
certain player back or certain
Yeah,
positions filled like with needs, then sure we'll trade him. But
we're
if that's not the
trading Owen
case,
Tippett and Jet Luchenko for a top player on another team, right? Like that's the type of scenario we see him playing out in. Otherwise, can't see it happening. Then the interesting two, who are both RFAs this offseason, that's Bobby Brink and Emil Andrae. I think there is a chance that Andrae gets surprisingly moved here at the deadline. Having said that, he is an undersized defenseman who is not playing a ton right now. So I don't think you'd be able to maximize his return. So I think it's unlikely that he would be a trade deadline acquisition. And again, I think this falls under the hockey trade angle. I think this is a hockey trade option in the future. And one, the Flyers might kick down the road anyway. They might re-sign Andrae to like a 1-year deal or something like that, like a prove it deal, and just kick that bucket down the road, to be honest with you. Because, you look at the Samuel Girard, he didn't net Colorado too much. If anything, they like lost on him in the end, even though he was a good defenseman for them. Andrae kind of falls into that bucket where teams aren't in love with having a 5'9", 5'10" defenseman who doesn't have elite skill set, in the playoffs. So he doesn't seem like a high value pick at a trade deadline to me.
yeah, I don't think he's necessarily a guy that contending teams are going to be looking for to add and solidify like a blue line, just because he hasn't had that experience in the past in the playoffs on his end. So it's
Right.
not going to really make sense for them.
It's
Like
like
you said,
maybe an
more of a
off-season thing.
yeah, more of a hockey trade. To be honest, if I'm the Flyers, I'd be more interested in kind of seeing what he can do for you in your lineup and see if he can
in
improve
in this
maybe get
stretch.
better.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Bobby Brink, I guess he's the most interesting. Again, he would just come from the fact that the Flyers have a ton of wingers,
And they
and
probably realize they need to move one eventually here. So
yes, Bobby Brink being the only one that's unsigned is due for a pay raise.
I mean,
Again, I think it's possible a team would trade for Brink at the trade deadline. I
I
think
do
there's
too. Yeah.
interest for him, but I don't think that this is the most appropriate time. I think again, it's part of like a hockey trade, and he might
I
not get traded at
honestly
all, to be
I
honest with you, because
expect
they
him to
like him.
be. I think they like him, but I think if he's going to get moved, it'll be in the offseason. And
Yeah,
not to say I expect it to be in the offseason, but I just think about all the different wingers that they have. And I think I would say over 50% chance it might happen this offseason.
yeah,
So,
because we brought this up over and over again. We already have a problem when Forrester comes back.
yeah.
That doesn't include Bump, Porter Martone, Jet
Barkey.
Luchenko. No, I guess
Yeah.
Barkey's already in there, but yeah,
He's
like
also a part of the problem, technically.
right.
Yeah. So
So they do have a numbers problem at
they're
wing.
going to have
So
to move somebody at some point.
yeah,
So it's just
and
like,
and maybe they're gonna wait because maybe they will move Tippett in a package and
maybe.
Brink is the guy who stays. But considering how small Brink is, even though he plays above his weight, and how
Yeah.
small Barkey is, even though he plays above his weight, and the fact that Michkov is not the biggest guy, also plays above his weight, and TK, like
Something's got to give, right? In terms of stylistic fit and how many small guys can you have filling your wings out. So
exactly. So, time will tell on that one. Okay, we're going to get in the second half of the show. Before we do, I just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for notification. Get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes. Give us a rating and a follow if you can. If you have not done any of those things, please, please, please do so. We would really, really appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some rumors and stuff that we've heard a little bit about that have not been resolved. The first one I want to touch on is one that kind of popped up in the past 24 hours, which really intrigues me. But I don't see the Flyers being involved in this. But and I actually don't even know if it's real. But it intrigues me. So Simon Nemec, the former second overall pick for the New Jersey Devils, his name has been thrown around. He obviously had a pretty good Olympics, but has struggled to make a presence in New Jersey's defense. And they have a pretty deep defense. I don't know what that means considering they're not very good. But they do have they have plenty of NHL talent back there. But Simon Nemec is an interesting guy. Obviously had a high pedigree, still really young. I think he's 22 years old. I think this is a guy the Flyers should be asking about.
I think they should try to target him just because you're trying to get like a number 1/number 2 defenseman added to your roster here in some capacity. My only thing is I feel like because you're in division with New Jersey, you're automatically going to have to pay more than everybody else. And me personally, as Briere, if I was Danny Briere, that would take me out of the conversation because I know I'm getting ripped off from the get-go, basically. Even if I like the player.
I
Right?
agree. I completely agree with your statement. I guess there's the thought is, and I don't know what their scouting department thinks, but if they think he's like underutilized and
Yeah.
that in our system they could reprise him to what he was scouted to be, which is a legit top pairing defenseman, there is a world where I kind of said this online. I would say it starts with Bonk in a package with this. It would obviously be Bonk plus,
Oh, yeah.
but maybe it's like Bonk, Andrae, and like a second round pick or something for Simon Nemec. It's not a humongous price. So to your point, it's like, I don't know, but like considering like roster wise, he plays where Andrae plays, and then you get Bonk on top of that, and then another second round pick to kind of satisfy your palate that you can take another defenseman or another quality player in the draft. I don't know if that's actually enough to get Simon Nemec out of New Jersey, but I do think it's an interesting guy where like these are the type of guys the Flyers should be looking at is guys with high pedigree.
Younger players might not be working out. Let's see if a change of scenery kind of, helps things. Almost like a Ziegler situation.
Exactly. And defensemen take a while to mature anyway. So, you kind of he went through and he's probably would play more minutes here than he is in New Jersey
Yeah.
because of their situation over there and how many good young defensemen they have. So, could fit in really nicely, with Sanheim or with like Drysdale, I almost said Draisaitl. So I don't know. Interesting name that's been going around, but I don't know if he's actually even being moved at all. And also probably not a trade deadline trade. And the next one, the big one, is the Maple Leafs. I'll go with the second part since you brought it up a couple times already. So the Maple Leafs are sitting right now, Scott Laughton, Bobby McMahon, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. None of those players are interesting to the Flyers. I don't know if OEL competes with the Risto trade. Maybe he's a very different type of defenseman. He's like a savvier puck moving defenseman, but he is pretty good at D. He's been one of their better defensemen this year.
So much experience for him though. Like he was, top pair on Phoenix
Won a
all those
cup.
years.
Won a
Obviously won a
cup
cup
with
in Florida, played with Vancouver. Like I think he'll get a first rounder for them because
That is the asking price,
he's
apparently.
top
Yes.
four. He like plays top 4 minutes still. I think it's probably him and Risto are like the prized items right now for defense, most likely.
And I don't know who this guy is, but Bob Staffer says the Leafs have a first round pick offer for OEL already.
Interesting. Okay.
I would imagine they would jump on that if they got it. I don't know what would be the thought not to. Um, Maybe they're trying to work out maybe they're also trying to get extra, first plus a prospect because they have no prospects over there. I'll be honest, like Toronto probably would be a good team for the Flyers to trade with, but I just don't know what they are willing to part with that the Flyers, would be willing to trade for. They don't really
Yeah.
have young players. I don't think
Well,
they're trying to move Ethan Count, and we don't need him.
I mean, the
Easton Count.
Leafs, yeah, the Leafs after Tavares and I mean Matthews, they probably need centers too and good
Apparently,
offensive
they're trying
players.
to trade. What's his name? Wah or Roy? I don't know. I think it's
Nicholas
Wah.
Waugh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wah.
I heard that as well. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. Like I said, the Leafs just don't make sense for the Flyers because the Flyers are looking for like centers, impact players. It's kind of the same thing the Leafs are looking for. They want to add more impact players after trading Marner away, so it doesn't really
Yeah,
add up too much. And I would say the other big rumor has just been Austin Matthews,
yeah.
and
Let's
that whole
address it.
situation.
Let's address it.
Um, I mean, I think the rumor comes out of all that happened with the gold medal. So like he didn't return to Toronto for that initial game right away, goes and like celebrates the gold medal like at the White House and stuff. And like the Toronto Star put like almost like a hit piece interview out or hit piece article kind of out about it, basically saying that like he shouldn't have went to the White House, which is kind of laughable to me because it's like you won the gold medal. How are you not
It's
going to go
yeah,
when
it's
the president?
even SDPN, who they hate Trump. They mocked the hell out of that article where they were
Yeah,
like, "This is irresponsible, despicable."
it's pretty laughable.
Yeah,
So I think really all the trade rumors are kind of spawning out of that stuff. Like, well, we don't want a guy here that doesn't want to like be like a proud Maple Leaf. But I'm like, him being proud of being an American doesn't mean he's not a proud Toronto Maple Leaf. So it's just kind of like pretty
it's
dumb.
yeah.
So
Separate your
yeah,
politics from sports. Absolutely.
basically, so a lot of that is the spawn of these non-existent rumors that I would classify as pretty bogus.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
Also,
much what it is. Just
uh,
Toronto and like random rumors on the internet, like guys like Hockey Insider with like 5 R's next to his name, tweeting like breaking news: Austin Matthews might be on the move from the Leafs,
yeah,
and you're like, he has like the silhouette cutout of like just like like a blank like face
it's so
like
stupid.
on Twitter, and you're just like, is this the new Eklund? Is this Eklund like cosplaying as this guy?
Eklund at
Because
least has some connections. This guy, we have no idea who the hell he is.
no, but I just that's what it just reminds me of, right? Of just like
Yeah,
being like, come on, man, like nobody's gonna believe you, like
yeah.
so,
HI 5.
yeah,
Done deal. Unknown
Hockey
player
Insider
for
5.
unknown return. Yeah, the Austin Matthews rumors. I think it's what I think hurts Toronto is when they get crazy. I think it hurts us too when they get crazy, and I think it chases players out of town. Having said that, from what I understand, Austin Matthews has already talked to ownership that he's cool with whatever it is they decide to do. He's not trying to leave town. If they decide that they are kind of at the end of the road, I could see them moving Matthews. Not this off season, but like down the line if they're like, okay, we're not getting any better. Like we need to get some assets and completely restart here. This is what I talk about tanking is when you're up against the wall. It's not an option for rebuilding. It's like we have no other options, so we have to tear everything down. Um, so as of right now, I would get the Austin Matthews stuff out of your head. The likelihood of him moving is very slim. And again, it would not be a trade deadline trade. The one thing I do want to talk about, Scott Laughton, he is probably going to move this offseason. They'll probably get what they want for him, especially when you saw the other values going around. He would be a good playoff asset. I did hear Colorado. He would be a good fit there, probably. The thought, just want to throw this out there. Scott Laughton's a free agent. He loves Philly. I'm not saying the Flyers are jumping to sign him back, but they do kind of need a fourth line center. Is
He'd be a
there?
good option as a fourth line
That's
center,
what I
yeah.
was thinking. Like it would have to be like a cheap deal, and he maybe could get more elsewhere. But like $2 million for 2-year deal to play fourth line center for the Flyers, I don't think it sounds terrible. I don't think it's going to happen. I'll make that clear.
Probably
But
not, but I
it
would
crossed
be
my
open
mind.
to it. I'd be open to it. I mean, for a short deal, like small cap hit, nothing too crazy. Like I think he'd be a perfect fourth line fit, just in terms of penalty kill and just the fact that obviously he's was a staple on the team for years, right? So
Yeah, I think he also loved Philly, but then again, like Giroux loved Philly and he didn't come back, right? So I think we can say goodbye to Scott Lawton for sure. But with how desperate we are for like a guy who will just play fourth line center here. Having said that, with Luchenko coming up in the Nesbitt the following year, um, I don't, and obviously Berglund as well,
yeah,
and Ruhonen
you
and
might
all
not
these
want to
guys.
block any of these guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. It might be completely like, this problem might be completely irrelevant going into next year. Okay, the Rangers obviously have been sellers. Vincent Toracek's name's out there. Not a guy the Flyers are going to go after, especially after re-signing
I think
Dvorak.
Colorado's rumored for Trocheck, so that would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
interesting for
it's
them.
probably if they don't get Trocheck, they go for Lawton type of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Trocheck's obviously a good player, but the big one is Adam Fox. The Rangers have kind of been screwing up big time. Adam Fox, while we are a rival, and I cannot see them trading him to the Flyers.
Definitely not. Yeah. Would
Just,
be a great fit in terms of what
but
they
that
need, but
on the surface level, this is exactly the type of veteran that the Flyers would love to add
power
on the
play
back end.
quarterback, really good in terms of like breaking the puck out. Great offensive acumen.
Solidify your top four, and
Well,
like
just
that's it, and you're
him and
good.
Sanheim, that's like a perfect top pair in a sense of like he's your offensive guy. Sanheim can still rush the puck, but he's more of your like defensive specialist.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be great, but I just think once again, it's like you have to pay so much more through the nose to get him from the Rangers as the Flyers versus what another
Here,
team would pay. It's just
here's
not
what I
worth it.
thought about though. I agree with that statement. Chris Drury, not only has he not done an amazing job as GM for the Rangers, he's
Yeah.
arguably tarnished that team. And we talked about changing GMs with Yarmo taking over the Sabres, and overnight they got better. I could see the Rangers doing something like that as well. But him and Danny were teammates back in the day. I imagine they probably still have a good relationship.
Probably, yeah.
I do wonder if if Danny will at least have a conversation about it. I'm making this up, completely speculative. There's zero rumors about this. But if I were Danny, I'd at least pick up the phone. I'd pick up the phone and be like, what does it take to get?
Let's see what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's going on with Adam Fox over there? I saw an interview with him where he didn't look that happy. Are you
It'd
trying
be
to?
interesting. It'd be interesting. I think he will get moved. Like I think the Rangers are gonna trade some more people, to be honest, in this offseason as well, some more players. So
Yeah, and I could see them trying to get him as far away from their team as possible, like West Coast. Um, but that's a big name out there for a
yeah,
really good player who we would covet. And apparently, he wants to stay near New York. Like he doesn't want to
that's
leave
not
New York.
surprising. Yeah.
So Philly's not too far. It's 2 hour drive. Just saying. Not going to happen. I don't see it happening, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. Okay. And then the big name that's been going around is Robert Thomas. I think this one's gotten way out of control. I will stipulate this. Frank Cervalli has stated, and I do believe him on this, that Robert Thomas has a no trade clause and he has not been asked to waive it. So for all of these rumors we are hearing, if he has not been asked to waive his no trade clause, I don't believe any of the rumors
Well,
until
yeah, that's I mean,
because you don't do that. You don't start working on trades without talking to the player who has complete control over the trades. You can listen to offers, but that would be the extent of it. The other half is the value of shit that I have heard online, and I have two of them listed here. Owen Power, Consta Hellenius, and a first round pick, and then James Hagens and the Bruins first round pick, and Fraser Mitten. I will say this. Both of those offers sound better than what Vancouver got for Quinn Hughes.
they do,
So
yeah.
when I hear that, I go, these are retarded. This is not accurate. And these are fake rumors. Not that he's not a good player, but the reality is he's in his best a Travis Konechny, and right now he's under a point per game, like by 20 points. He's got like 40 points in 60 games. This guy is not at the top of his game. He is not netting this type of return. Could he get you a James Higgins? Sure. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so he's got 35 points in 43 games, so it's
Yeah.
not as bad. But I would say for like what you're saying is pretty accurate. Like the like all these players, like he's a first line center for sure, but he's not like I wouldn't say he's one of the top 10 first line centers in the league
No.
or anything. And that's what
No,
that
he's a
deal's
really good player.
that's what that deal sounds like it would be for, like a upper echelon type, top 15 point getter in the league type of deal, right? And I think that's kind of like I don't know. It's just like the asking price for a really good center, and then people kind of get overblown in terms of like what it actually might be, which we see all the time with the Quinn Hughes trade, for example, right? Like
Yeah.
we thought it was going to end up being so much more, but it isn't. Um, I I think he's signed though. He's under contract, so I think that's the only thing where maybe that's why it would be a little bit more. But even to your point, like I don't think it would be all those players from Buffalo, for example, like a Power,
No.
like yeah, like
May-
Hellenius, like
Maybe
that's a
maybe
lot,
a
right?
power in a first.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like they're
Well, he's
not
a
gonna.
number one overall pick, and he was only picked a couple seasons ago. So yeah,
He's a
it's
really good young defenseman. That's like I would not make that trade if I was the opposing team and those were the asks for Robert Thomas. Which tells me that they're probably not that serious about trading him. They probably want him again. He's what
they
26
probably
years
want to
old.
keep him, to be honest.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not old. He can
Yeah.
still be part of the solution. If I were them, I would keep him unless you were blown away by an offer. But I don't think it needs to be like to the extent of what I'm seeing online. But the fact that he hasn't been discussed to remove his no trade clause tells me that this is complete moot point and not happening.
At least at this point, anyways.
Yeah. I'm just checking X to see if we missed anything.
One thing I am seeing
Go ahead.
on Twitter about this Parayko trade is that they're still not word that he's accepted to waive his no trade clause. They're still waiting for him to accept to waive it. And that's
Um,
also the same thing that I saw Darren Dreger tweet about Weegar is that the offer's been made and they're waiting on Weegar's decision.
ooh,
So
that's ugly. That
it
it's
seems like a lot of things might be, yeah. So Elliot Friedman an hour ago, hearing Utah Calgary are closing on this deal, but it's awaiting his approval.
so
So it's
those.
all about
Yeah,
Uyghur actually approving the trade. I'd imagine he would approve to Utah because they're pretty good, but I don't know if Parayko will approve to go to Buffalo.
yeah,
That would be crazy, just because he won a cup there in St. Louis. I don't know, like it just seems like nobody really wants to ever go to Buffalo.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Um, and if that Parayko deal doesn't go through, I do wonder if Rasmus Ristolainen, which I don't imagine Risto wants to go back there.
to Buffalo? No, probably
Yeah, that
not.
if they would look at Risto as consolation prize, I would
Yeah,
take him for
so
Radamerka straight up.
this is Frank
Just Merca.
Seravalli. Yeah, this is Frank Seravalli. So as Darren Dreger reports, St. Louis Blues and Sabres have framework of trade in place. However, at this exact moment, Parayko has not made a decision yet on whether to waive full no trade clause. He's been presented with the option. Odds are he says yes, but not there yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a tough one. And that's out
that's
public
the
now.
risk. That's the risks of no trade clauses, right? That like at the end of the day, it's up to the player. If the player doesn't want to move, he doesn't want to move. So
So yeah, I guess hopefully we'll know more before we end this show, but I don't suspect we will. I think that will be we'll probably leave you on a cliffhanger with those.
yeah,
And
tune in for next week's episode
yeah, it might be we might have to find out
on Twitter.
in a day or two.
Yeah.
Okay. The last so I have two things left here and we'll try to make them quick. So I did this ChatGPT exercise that I sent to Vasili and Jamie. So I went through, I thought about what Bill Meltzer said on this show about, which I do not completely agree with. That you have to be putting up big points. Um, at the lower levels to become a good player in the NHL. So I went through a ChatGPT exercise and I asked ChatGPT, a third party neutral. It's not a human, but definitely neutral. Um, and I asked for a list of players that did not dominate juniors. So they were like a point per game, slightly above at the junior level. Um, and but ended up being really good players. So as far as superstar players, there are not many that were able to do that. The
Which
funny
makes
thing,
sense.
yeah,
Like,
but the funny thing is some of the players that did not consider a superstar were Patrice Bergeron and what's his name from Tampa Bay, little guy. Oh my God,
Braden Point.
Braden Point. Thank you, Johnny Gaudreau. These guys are still star
Undersized
players.
players, which is a theme, right?
Yes. So what it indicated as a key to success of these players who tend to not produce at the highest levels, still really good, but not like immense scoring at the lower levels, but end up being, top line players at the NHL level, is speed and IQ. And if you look at Jet Luchenko, that is exactly why the Flyers picked and were so high on him, because of the hockey IQ and the skating. So for all the people shitting on Jet Luchenko and all that because he's not producing, he falls under that camp of very fast with a great hockey mind. And I did ask about Luchenko, Nesbitt, and Berglund. They put Nesbitt as the biggest swing, that his upside is an 80-point power forward center, but said that there is a large swing there for him. He's the hardest to predict of the three. Jack Berglund, they listed as a 55-point middle six center, and Jet Luchenko as a 75 to 85-point center at the NHL level. And I just thought that was really interesting. That, talking to a third party, and again, I love to test ChatGPT or any AI on what it knows hockey wise. It's not always consistent, especially when it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the most recent information.
It doesn't always give you the best answers, but I would
Yes.
say historically it can have some good insights for sure.
Yes. But like for analysis and comparison, it does a really good job of that. So I had it give me these kind of scenarios and then compare those three players against it. And it said specifically, we are nowhere near a conversation about a bust with any three of these players. That none of them, as of right now, they also said it's way too early to
I would say
even.
that's accurate, though.
Yes, it was extremely smart answer. And then I had a little fun with it, and I go, okay, what about Porter Martone and Igor Zavragin, who are, I guess, 1 and 2 in the Flyers prospect pool right now? And it was like, oh, now we're having a whole different conversation. It was like Porter Martone, surefire star. Like we're talking about 90 to 100-point player. What could limit him is his skating ability. But as long as his skating ability continues to improve, you have a surefire star like player in the NHL. And for Igor Zavragin, they're like, look, it's a goaltender. They're really hard to predict. It was such a smart answer. It's really hard to predict. They have a large variability between their success. But he's had a great start so far, but you're going to have to give it time with
So
Zavragin, but a high level.
a little bit of breaking news. So this is
Oh,
coming from Andy Strickland, who was on the
okay.
Fan 590 an hour ago.
Hit
And
me.
this is from the Real Kipper and Bourne show. So he was a guest of theirs. Strickland said, I'm getting a text right now. This is 59 minutes ago, saying that the reporting on Parayko to Buffalo is premature. This is from sources close to Colton Parayko. I would be a little bit surprised if he were to waive his no trade clause to go to Buffalo. So it looks like somebody might have let the cat out of the bag a little early, and that might come
Uh,
back to bite
that reminds you of the
the
Sanheim
Sabres
trade,
a little
right?
bit. Somebody in
St.
St.
Louis
Louis,
again, dude.
yeah, letting things out, and I guess a little
You guys got a
prematurely.
leaky pipe over there in St. Louis, man.
Yeah,
I
that's that. I don't think I've ever seen a deadline deal where that's happened before,
Me
though.
neither, and not
That's
when like the
wild.
top people are reporting it.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
Dragger, Sarah, like all these guys. So who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows what happened there?
I do have another update here. Ali Mata is part of the deal going to the Flames from Utah
Interesting.
in return for Mackenzie Weegar. So a little more detail there. I imagine there's more than Oli Mata. Um, I'm looking to see if there's anything.
I haven't seen much. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we will review before we end the show. We have one last topic here. This just wanted to point this out. I want to give credit to Appleyard because he pointed this out today, even though I like brought it up several times, but the NCAA season is coming close to an end. And Notre Dame is not a very good team, which is partially why Cole Knuble's numbers are down. Having said that, if you've been tracking Cole Knuble, which I have been, he's been on fire of late. He is the clear-cut best player on Notre Dame. His season is about to end. He's 20 years old. Is he going to come to the Phantoms soon? I think there's a very good chance that he will join the Phantoms for near the end of the season and into the playoffs, assuming they can make the playoffs. But I think that's actually a pretty exciting addition. And again, he's part of that turnover. I do suspect the Flyers like him a lot.
I'll probably give him a contract. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
like he's outperforming Owen McLaughlin, who's 2 years older, maybe even
Yeah.
more. Yeah, he's 2 years older than him.
I mean, he's almost a point a game this season, right? Like
He's
29 points in
he's a
33 games. So,
top 50 scorer in the NCAA.
yeah.
So
He's definitely at least the scoring prowess has gone a lot better the last two seasons, right? Since his freshman year. So,
yeah. So I would like to see Cole Knuble here. I think it would just be cool to see another Knuble
definitely.
back with the Flyers. I like the pick at the time. Again, his ceiling is a bottom six forward at the NHL level, but could be a very good one. And maybe a guy who would fight for an NHL spot next year, over a guy like Dorwart. He's not big, unfortunately, but he is,
I think just him being a center in general
is a
in
big
the
deal.
system will definitely benefit him and his opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Because especially because that's what his kind of ceiling was projected to be anyways, like a fourth line center if everything was going to turn out perfect, right? So if that's what he ends up being, that fills a role for you pretty much out of the box. So
Yeah. Yeah. Taking one long look here. I think
yeah, I'm
that's
trying
it,
to
buddy.
see. Yeah, I don't think any more trades, but I mean, there will be more trades beyond the show. So keep tuned in to whatever ESPN app or the Score app or whatever. They always have their trade
Oh,
trackers.
I guess we
Um,
should bring this up real quick. So
what's up?
Kiefer Sherwood did sign an extension with the Sharks. He was
Yeah,
traded earlier, 5 years, 5.75 million. I only want to bring that up. I tweeted about this earlier. When people look at the Dvorak trade, um, and you look at the options available in UFA, like I think people will see that that was a smart re-signing, not a bad one. And like rather than try to find a guy like Dvorak in the offseason, I think they made the right move by re-signing him, to be honest with you. And you look at Sherwood's, even though I think Sherwood's a good player, he's got value, but he's getting paid more than Dvorak. I'd rather have Dvorak than Kiefer
oh, for
Sherwood.
sure. And he's a winger, so
So
gotta
yeah,
factor that in.
just a little bit
Man,
of
it's just be careful on the internet right now. I would
oh,
say to
it's
everybody,
full of fake.
there's a bunch of fake rumors. Once again, I'm going to call them out again here. Hockey Insider, as of 6:47 p.m., breaking news confirmed by multiple sources close to Canadians and St. Louis Blues. The Habs have improved their offer on the table tonight, and right now are the front runners to land both Robert Thomas and Jordan Binnington. The package offered contains Zorovsky, Goulet, Owen Beck, a first round pick confirmed. Ball is in St. Louis's court. Hockey Insider.
Sounds completely fake.
Oh yeah,
I could
dude,
see
what?
Jordan Binnington getting traded, but
For sure, but like just like oh my god, that's just too wild. Like both of them together. Like come on, man. Like are we playing NHL like 26 right now or like?
here's a really nice fake one. Colorado receives Kevin Hayes in return for Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Gabriel Landeskog, Devin Taves, Josh Manson, and
There we
Brock
go.
Nelson.
What a trade. I love
What
it.
a trade for the Pens, huh? They crushed it on that one. I think they might be Stanley Cup contenders after that. I'm not sure.
I should make an account like that and just put a
Just
million R's at the end of my name and call myself an
nonsense.
insider.
Vasiller.
Vasiller, the hockey insider.
Yeah, Vasiller, the hockey insider.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
stupid. Yeah, I don't see anything else. I'm checking HF boards right now just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
You know what, though? Eventful couple days, it looks like, before the
Yeah.
deadline. I hope there's still some trades to be made on deadline day because it seems like the theme is they all happen before the actual day itself. But here's hoping we still get some trades on Friday.
Yeah, I think if the Flyers do make a trade, it'll be on trade deadline day.
I agree.
We
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen with Risto. He was held out of he wasn't held out of practice. He took a maintenance day. So did Dvorak. So did Sealer.
I'm assuming he'll be
and
scratched tomorrow. That's my guess, but we'll see.
yeah, but they've won 3 in a row. They're still like this is
I know.
where like
I think if they're gonna play him, I think if they're gonna trade him though, they'll scratch him, right? Like I think that's what they'll likely do.
yeah, if they're
So,
I think if they're close to a trade,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
yes. Even if he doesn't get traded, but if they're having serious conversations, I do
That's
think
what I mean, but I think if it's still up in the air and the conversations aren't really getting serious, then they'll probably still play him.
yeah. And again, I would not be shocked if the Flyers do not move him,
Yeah.
which a lot of people probably don't like that, but
Like we said earlier, like there's a ton of opportunity to still move him for his very similar package this offseason or next trade deadline. You're not backed into a corner having to do it right now. So
right, correct. No matter what people say online, that's just not the case. All right. Anything else you want to leave our audience with?
yeah, just keep checking flyersnittygritty.com out. We're gonna have a ton of content for the deadline. So yeah, we appreciate that.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Just to remind you, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes and give us a rating and a follow if you can. Again, that is the best way to support this show. If you have made it this far, you haven't done that so far, we really humbly appreciate it if you could do those things. It's the only thing that helps us grow is the subscriptions and the likes and the shares and all that stuff, the ratings, the follows. We truly appreciate everybody who's done that so far. And also a shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Make sure to check out Jim's Steaks. Also, Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. It will help facilitate the process between you and your insurance company and make sure you get the best claim possible. And also, shout out to SportsSpider.com. They are our partners. They aggregate sports content from all over the internet. Articles, videos, podcasts, everything like that. And again, our stuff is pinned at the top from flyersnittygritty.com. And always make sure to check out flyersnittygritty.com. Vasili, thank you as always for being awesome, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We love you guys. And remember, always stay